Hi, my name is Simon Hedley, known to my clients and partners as a strategic alchemist and an ultimate connector. I'm a chartered accountant who brings together and bridges the worlds of business philosophy, finance, marketing, optimization, ontology, and so much more. Always focused on one thing, the simple idea that can make the difference to people and projects so we can tip the scales in their favor and get them complete. Pause, Stop, Reset is all about the three little words that can make the difference. They have for me and my clients, and I hope they will for you too. During the show, you'll get to learn about my guests' real-life experiences and the insights and lessons they've learned as they've navigated the resets in their personal and business lives, which you'll be able to leverage yourself. So let's start the show. Hello, I'm Simon Hedley, and welcome to today's episode of Pause, Stop, Reset. Today, I'm joined by Toby Gorniak. He's the founder of the Gorniak Method, helping people and communities discover their individual genius. He's had an eventful life from coming to the UK as a teenage refugee to receiving an MBE from the Queen. So without further ado, Toby, welcome to Pause, Stop, Reset.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. I know you're about to move off to Spain and stuff. Perfect for this reset conversations. I'd like to start at the beginning. So for people that may not know you yet or haven't come up with your resets, who are you and what are you focused on today?
Hi, my name is Toby Gorniak Romano Chavo Galiciaco. That means I'm a Romani Gypsy. I was born in Poland. Now I live in England. My journey started back home, and it actually changed when I arrived in England. My main job, I believe, is to be able to help people discover their genius. From a very young age, I was told I'm worthless. I'm never going to achieve anything, never going to do nothing. All I was looking for in my life was a leader, a mentor, a guide, a support, and I never had it. So in my life, I've learned, well, I have to become it. And that became my life mission, to help other people who feel like that, to help them discover the genius.
Yeah, I can hear the passion, and it's ironic. A year ago, I did my audiobook, doing the podcast for years. Growing up, I was one of those don't talk in public people, right? One workshop changes our lives. And that bit of paying it forward is really quite exciting. You can hear that how many languages do you speak, by the way? It's like 4 or 5?
Five languages, yes.
And this is why people call him Toby G, because the other one is very complicated, but we love that. It's all good. Obviously, you've been through many different resets and shifts. If you look back on your life, what do you think have been the biggest shifts and resets you've been through?
I think one of my biggest ones will be coming to Britain. Will be the biggest shift. Learning a new culture, a new language, being part of a new community. Just the whole cultural shift was huge, because being brought up as a young Romani Gypsy boy, we have our rules, we have our culture, we have a way of life. And I came to England and I was confused because it was different. And one of the biggest shifts was, like, when I went to school, all my friends were getting pocket money. And I was like, what is pocket money? Like, it's free, your parents give it to you. I was like, well, I'm going to go ask my mum. And I went and asked my mum, and my mum was like, what is that? What's pocket money? I said, well, all the other kids get it. Can I have some? She went, yeah, you can go get a job and give me some pocket money. And that was one of my things. It was a big cultural difference for me. But I think that was one of my biggest shifts, where I had to totally stop, look, and then react to what was happening around me. And I think that was one of my biggest things, coming to Britain. And then meeting my wife was a huge eye-opener, book opener, reveal of life. Because before that, like I said, many people told me many times in my life that I was worthless and I was stupid and I wasn't intelligent, until I met my wife. And when I met my wife, I've realized, wow, I am a genius at what I do.
I love that.
But I didn't know that before. Before, I truly believed I'm just going to, do what everybody else does, which is nothing. And that was my kind of presumption of life. So I met my wife, and then she showed me who I was, and I was like, wow.
What's her name, and how many years ago was this?
So me and my wife met 18 years ago, and we're still together. So we've been married for 18 years together. We met in Theatre Royal, which is like a huge theatre place in Plymouth. And she was the acting teacher, I was a dancing teacher, and we just clicked.
And what's her name, by the way, just for fun?
My wife's name is Jo. It's Joanna, but we'll call her Jo. But yeah, she's an incredible woman.
It's often there's a person, a partner, after we sort of open these days, right? But it's that person often behind the scenes that helps you ride the roller coaster to the good days and the bad, that inner circle connection. And I love that you sort of bring that up, right? So many people don't talk about that. I won't mention his name. He's a very successful author guy. He never mentions the wife and kids at home, right? It's like, and literally they had a choice. Either she was going to go on the stage and travel the world, or he was. And she's like, no, no, you go. And I know, and he knows. Never really talks about it. It's really fun. And when you came to the UK, you had like a language barrier, right? Is that the case? You sort of came in without the English?
Yeah, no English, no nothing.
Must have been really challenging. And was the Romany Gypsy community that you came across with, was that the same as back home or really different? My guess is a really different vibe, different traveling plans, and everything else.
Yeah, there's a huge, huge difference because in Britain, the word Roma and the word gypsy means something else to many people here. And they were a lot more welcomed to where we came from Europe. You're not welcomed at all anywhere you go in Europe. So I think for me, that was a slightly nicer welcome to the place because there wasn't so much stigma attached to it, which allowed me to slowly develop, and I was given opportunities. And I know this would never happen back home. So the culture difference was different. And then we've met gypsies from all around the world. We met some from Czech, from Slovakia, from Germany, from Romania, from Yugoslavia, literally met people from all around the world in Plymouth. So it was really incredible.
And I love that it gives you that open mindset. Most people don't really live out of their own town, their own county. Those that have traveled start to sort of understand we all have the same color blood. We're all humans in that sort of wider perspective. So I love that. Obviously, those are sort of challenging, but not too hard, right? Although merging with the wife, I'm sure was a fun experience of realizing who you could be and stepping into that. If you look back on your life, those three aspects of pausing, stopping, and resetting, they're like different things, right? Take a pause and go back to it, stop, never again, and reset something completely new. Which has been the hardest for you, and why do you think that was?
I think a really hard moment, a difficult moment we had, which was taking on a studio. I said to my wife, well, I'm just going to go have a look. It's only meant to be one room, like a dance studio I wanted to open. I come back with the keys for an entire building. Two huge dance studios, offices, change rooms, toilets, showers, another open space, a cafe space, reception space, more offices. Yeah, I mean, it was huge without any funding, any branding, anything. And this is where we had to stop, reset, change everything we did, and then move forward. And that was huge learning curve because on top of that, my wife was just due with the twins.
Wow. How many years ago was this now?
So that was, wow. So twins are 15. So 15 and a half while they were still in the belly just before they come out. So around 15 years ago. It was incredible. Before that we had 3 other children. And then was the twins. And I was on top of me choosing to take on the building. Crazy me. You have these crazy ideas, these dreams. And I think that was a really big thing because before I went to schools and I taught and I traveled and I did things. Now we have to change everything that we did. And we had to reset, refocus, and then go again. That was really hard.
And did she go, yes, let's do it? Or did she go, I love you, but what are you doing? Like, we didn't really talk about this one. How did that go? Because I can imagine that there's sort of both sides of that conversation, right?
She thought I was crazy, 100%. She said, but what we're going to do, we haven't got funding, we haven't got that money. I said, don't worry, babes. I'll do the place up. We'll put graffiti on the walls, put the mirrors in, and it's going to be amazing. And it was an incredible journey. The stuff I've learned, the stuff we've done, stuff we experienced at that building. It became a park inside, but it was an outside park where kids could just come and be themselves and dance and learn and build communities and friendships. And yeah, it was just an incredible building.
Yeah, it's, I'm sure, really challenging times, right? The nature of entrepreneurship, the days when how the bill's going to get paid, and there's always that going on. But you look back 15 years on now and go, isn't that a great thing we did, right? At the time, different story. And it's interesting, there's community aspect. I think a big bit of what you do is that community, finding that genius, that community. It's so missing these days, right? Despite all technology we have in spaces, you and I are talking on Zoom, not live in a studio space, now you're building one out in Spain, that space to really come and play, I think is such a missing in the modern world. Really a shame. So hats off you for doing that. It's a really good thing. We talked about mentoring and paying it forward. I know for myself, I found reading books, watching movies have definitely helped me sort of pause, stop, and reset, right? I'll watch a TV show, watch a movie, get an idea, good days and bads. Are there any books or movies that have really helped you? And how's that happened?
Yeah, I think as a child, reading was not my thing. And I think that's due to the bad education I kind of received. My teachers didn't kind of like me, didn't help me, didn't encourage me. I think because of that, I didn't like my English, my kind of reading and writing, and especially back in Poland, that's where it all started. So I really struggled with reading and writing. But there was something I loved, and I loved watching podcasts and learning and YouTube, and that was my kind of to-go-to. And I would learn from films and other things. And one day we watched the thing called The Secret. And that was the most amazing way. Like, I did it without knowing I was doing it. And to me, I was like, but that's what I do. That's how I think. I'm blinded by this mission and driven by this goal, and everything I want to do is just right there. And there was a huge eye-opener, but it was a great beginning. Doesn't mean it was the whole thing, but it was an amazing starting point to start thinking differently about the world and how we perceive it and how we perceive success and how we perceive life. And to me, that was a huge learning point in my life, The Secret.
Well, thank you for mentioning it. It's a great movie. Many of my old clients and friends actually in it that I got to work with. And I think it did it very clearly. It wasn't like the answer, but it starts to go, I could maybe think different. The old 4-minute mile thing, it can't be done. Somebody does it, then it becomes a normal. It has you think differently and bigger. Growing up when I did, and similar for you probably, the lives that they pointed at wasn't lives you and I worked on. And that movie now must be, and I Googled in the background, probably over 25 years. I don't know how old it is, The Secret movie. When did that come out? When did it come out, do you reckon? When did it come out?
No, never checked that stuff.
2006. That's quite extraordinary. Nearly 20 years ago. So there are children today haven't watched it, don't know it exists. But this whole industry of personal development, transformational training that's been really forwarded since the 70s and 80s is building up, and new people like yourself emerging and shifting it, and hopefully with AI, fun stuff too. So a great recommendation, and that thing of thinking differently about it. And definitely the books. So many don't read books the way they used to, right? Oh, it's hard to. The days of nothing to do at home but a wet afternoon, grab a book and go read it. We write books. Nobody reads them. They do, but they want to watch a podcast, watch a short reel, the sort of 30 seconds. Toby says, right? It's that thing. So beautiful example. I'm going to guess your partner, Joe, has been a big part of this, but when you've been going through these resets and shifts, what helped you through it? I know you've got a bit of a strong sort of faith motif there as well. Is it faith that gets it through? Is it the wife, the family? Is it a mate? Is it your own? How do you navigate those challenging times on the resets?
I think that comes from our childhood. That comes from our Romani Gypsy culture, which we were taught from a very young age. As a man, you have to lead. As a man, you have to be in charge. As a man, you have to stand and support and encourage and do. That was one of my biggest things: do, action, don't talk, get it done. And that was one of my biggest drivers. So I think in my life, that is one of my biggest things. I don't like to talk too much when I'm going to do something. I'm just going to do it and then go, ta-da! That kind of thing, how I like to work. So when things are really difficult, and maybe some people might not be able to relate to this, but from a child, I was bullied, called names, physical, verbal, everything you could think about. For me, nothing worse could have ever happened. So if there is a challenge in life, I'm like, okay, how do we fix it? How do we change it? How do you overcome it? And for me, everything is based on solutions. I don't ever look at the problem. I look at the solution. So I don't waste too much time going, well, that broke and this is not working and we need to sort this out. I'll be like, okay, what do I do to overcome that? What do I do to change that? Who can help me out? Who can guide me? Who can support me? And at this moment in time, every single day, my wife is right next to me. She is the key to everything that we do. We're so gelled together that we understand each other. That's the most amazing thing. We know when to give. We know when we got to push. We know when we got to pull. And that's what we do for each other every single day. And it's amazing to have that rock, someone who's there. And for someone that you got to encourage them and they got to encourage you, that it's a beautiful place in life to be able to bounce off of ideas and energies, and to get things done. And to know I'm never on my own. No matter how hard life gets, how difficult it gets, because trust me, there are moments that are really difficult. My wife was always there and I was always there for her. And I think that there kept me going through the whole thing all the time.
Nice. I'm going to sort of push a little bit. Like I've had friends in the performance and the dancing world, they get injuries, right? Um, when somebody's had one of those, it's already great being I'm a doer. I love that, by the way. I get you've had that, the forging and fire, that Spartan upbringing that goes like you're on your own, get it done. And there's his faith in the family. I love that. But when you have those things that you can't just get over, is that when you turn to the inner space? Or like imagine one of your dance students has broken an ankle, they can't go on tour. What's the, and it is that solution, but sometimes there aren't solutions, right? There are sort of the real challenges. What would be your tips and insights there, maybe?
I think for me, then that's when you pull with your family and friends. That's a really important thing. That's when you spend time and you heal on the inside. You build on the inside. So you're always building, you're always moving forward. We never kind of stand still. There was once I had an injury. Never had an injury my entire life. We went out to a club, dancing, having a laugh. So this guy went, oh, let's have a dance off. I went, okay, let's have a dance off. And he did some moves. We kind of laughed, it was brilliant. And then it was my turn. So I did just jazz splits. Well, just stand there and go, whoop, and I dropped right down.
And you heard the snap.
And then what happens was someone walked behind me, spilled a drink. I didn't know. So when I span and went down,
no.
So my legs just went to splits. I couldn't control them. So I ripped the whole back of my muscle, my leg. I couldn't dance, I think, for 3 months. But at that moment in time, all I had was encouragement, thinking. So if I wasn't physically active, I was still mentally being proactive. I think that's the biggest thing to people. I would say whenever you're in this difficult thing, find a way to be proactive. We can always still do something, but it's about being proactive, because that keeps us focused. I think when we just give up, that's when it gets really difficult. It's about finding those little things. What can you do today? Who can you speak to? What could you learn? What could you study? What could you build? What could you design? What could you make? There's still something we can always do. And I think keeping a positive spirit is really, really important.
No, 100%. So hard to do sometimes, by the way, to get yourself back out of it with what's happening in the world. I mean, we're recording this in October 24. There's elections. There's extraordinary, the wars going on globally. My own brain, like I'm 46 now. 10 years ago, I'd have gone, that's never going to happen. And what's happening out there with the weather and other things, it's a nature of life, these challenges, but it can be so easy to go down the rabbit hole versus staying outcome solution. Especially if you haven't got those friends and community around, you haven't found that. So reaching out, I think part of the nature of these podcasts and the videos and the internet, there are like-minded people you can find if you go looking and be open to it. So appreciate the reminder about that. I like to keep things simple. Simple Simon, as they say. What's one takeaway? So everybody's listening today and they're talking to their friends and they're like, I saw Toby talking and he said this. What's the one takeaway you really want them to be left with from you and your work and your message?
I think there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. And there are moments I walked through the tunnel for a long, long, long time and I couldn't see no light. But then I just kept on pushing through. And then you see that little tiny one. And then it starts growing. So one of the things I would say, there's always hope. There's always that inspiration. And if you could be that for someone, it's incredible. Or if you could just find someone, that's incredible. But that kind of space of inspiration and that space of hope and never giving up is so important. To have that belief, that faith in your dream, in your goal, and whatever that is in life, that's really important. I think that's got me over a lot of things and a lot of people I work with. But I think the biggest takeaway from here would be anything is possible. You just got to keep on chasing that dream or goal, whatever that is in your life, and just not give up.
Yeah, that reminder that there's always going to be a light in the tunnel is so important. There's an old British quote, when you're walking through hell, don't stop, like keep going. And I literally had the words in my head. You know the song, You'll Never Walk Alone? I'm nearly tearing up. I remember hearing that when some heavy stuff, when some friends went in, and it was just not that, acoustic sung, men from up north, and sometimes that sort of reminder in the darkest days. We're going to go to winter soon here in the UK. Spring will come again. Jim Rohn's ant philosophy, but a great reminder that, yeah, there always can be that hope, even when you can't see it, and to keep going and keep. It's challenge with the dreaming sometimes. I think you work in the creative spaces often. People go, and I'm going to be, I can't be 21-year-old on tour with Ed Sheeran today, right? I'm 46. I've missed that window, but I can dream. It's like, that sort of grounded reality while going for big stuff. And I think it's quite, you and I have lived at a time when what was possible for humans, what we thought was real, has gone. I remember about a decade ago talking about the first $1 trillion companies, and now there's multiple of those. There's a different, but not about the money, this ability to change and communicate. Going from vinyl records to MP3s and beyond and AI music, it's a different world. So there is a future coming. And actually, for myself, do you know Peter Diamandis' book, The Abundance Book? Great really interesting one. I'll send you the link after the show. He was touching on often we get focused on the news is very negative often, right? And we forget how much a simple idea, a simple solution, you building out your new thing in Spain, there'll be people that are going, if only there was a studio, almost giving up, and they have no idea that you're planning on building one. So this other stuff that suddenly can change the game that often we don't even know is on the table about to come out. So keep your fingers crossed and keep going. Great reminder there.
Definitely. I think that just as part of that, I think one of the biggest things you never know what's around the corner. I remember we put this bid in for this project and we thought, oh, we didn't get it. Let's just move on to the next project. Let's plan. And 2 days later, it was just right there. They just took that extra little time. Do you know what I mean? So those things do sometimes wait just around the corner. So just keep on going.
And especially for the performance world and entrepreneurship more than ever is this sort of weird performance, right? Like 30 years ago, I'm a chartered accountant. We didn't do videos, right? And other things. I've been on telly with doing these things. And it is going to that next audition and being in the moment, and often meeting somebody you'd never know who they know and where it goes, which is that mindset. If you're turning up in that heavy, tired, nobody really wants to be around that. It's really hard to self-start, right? Go get yourself moving. I need to introduce you to Maxine Jones. She's a big advocate of get up and move every day, right? Getting the movement in the body. Yeah, I love that. I'm really curious because you obviously know lots of interesting people around the world, right? Either people you know or you know of, who would you love to hear their versions of what they've been through? These questions, this sort of show, who would you think would be a great guest and sort of why do you think they'd have an interesting perspective to share?
I think for me, the person I'm really interested in is called Gary Vee. Love what he talks about. And the main thing, I love his mission, which is all about love and kindness. Do you know what I mean? You can still be kind. You can do what you got to do. You can hustle. You can build. You can make. You can chase. You can still be kind. And to me, that's one of the most powerful things I've ever seen. And especially when we talk about multimillionaires and people that do some incredible things. That kindness, that to me is the most powerful thing, that this man will still stop and open the door for someone. And this man will stop and still talk to someone. That kindness, to be able to pass it on to somebody, that to me is beautiful. And I'll be really interested to find out a bit more deeper, because I know that he's done loads of interviews and stuff, but definitely those questions would open a lot more conversation with him.
Have you met Gary yet live?
No, not yet.
We're going to put it out. I've met Gary a few times. And again, you're not the first guest to say, Gary, Gary, if you're watching, please come on the show. I know I can be a bit crazy sometimes. I love you. Come over. He's one of those people that's super sharp. He operates, I would say, at quite a high frequency. What I mean by that is he's thinking steps ahead. There's a dance instructor who's going, right, salsa, 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7. And there's the person going, this guy could choreograph that and do this. And they're sort of, so he's been around it. And so now his progression from what he's doing with his family, with the wine library, to the books and the shifting and changing the conversation. And the interesting bit with Gary, he's one of the few that gets the real thing isn't the sales number, it's the impact. This thing of not comparing, this thing about stepping out of it. And he will spend time when he can. Now, clearly, you can't spend an hour with 1 billion people one-to-one. So knowing and navigating, but no, Gary's a really interesting character. And I love that you also got it. And I think it's what people forget. There's what you see. And then behind it, this is this really rich depth. He's one of the more open people out there. And at the same time, there's also the depth of the story, right? The way he thinks about buying the New York Jets and the card games and other stuff. But no, he's a really interesting character. And more than that, like I know for me, seeing him live in London, with what you did, his book. It was the one about jab, 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 hook. And he clocked what I did in an event. It's not about me being big and impressive. I did something because I was annoyed by the marketer room. They were all going, I bid $10 for lunch. And I was just like, this is daft. Because it was for charity, right? So you'd play a different game. And he clocked it and said, thank you, because I changed the conversation game. Most don't do that. So that reminder about paying it forward. And this is also, I think, Toby, what you're going to find. My sense is you're still quite young, right? You got another 100 years ahead of you of this. It's the people that you taught 15 years ago that will go do stuff. And then they'll come back and go, you made all this happen and you didn't know they were doing it at all. And Gary's one of those people. So Gary, get to know Toby G. You should get Vayner Media, get Toby out on some more stages, and a bit of fun there. You got me smiling, by the way. I've not spoken to Gary for several years. He's a really smart guy, but also cares, I think, about the right metrics. And we're in a noisy world about attention, and the world's changing. So really fascinating time there. So we're about to wrap up in a little bit. Is there anything else you want to leave people with before we pause, stop, reset for today?
Yeah, I think for me, my whole life, my whole company, everything we've built, everything we've done was based on 5 elements. And the elements are based on respect, peace, love, unity, and having fun. That's my 5 principles. Everything I do every single day, as long as I can do those 5, my life is good. And I passed on to my children, I passed on to my staff, to my team, to everybody I ever work with. That's one thing I want people to go away with, is those 5 principles. If you could use them every day and pass them on to somebody else, the world will be such a more beautiful place. So if we all can take those principles and make them useful within our lives, it just makes everything so much easier.
So one more time for us making our notes. We've got respect.
Respect, peace, love, unity, and having fun.
Nice. What does unity mean in that, by the way? Is that how we're all connected, or what's the unity?
Unity means together, means more than merrier, means bringing people in, helping people out, being together, not being against each other, being able to grow business or grow someone's confidence or grow someone's love and grow someone's care, but doing it all together. So the more we look out for our communities, the stronger communities they are.
I like that. They've got some chainsaws going outside now, so it comes off. Apologies for that. For people that want to learn more about you, what you're doing, and sort of follow your journey, what's the best way for them to connect?
I think will be really great here will be LinkedIn, or you've got TikTok, or you've got Instagram, any of those platforms. You can find me, send me a message. I'm on it. I'm really easy, really accessible, answer most of my messages. So really happy to speak to people, because one of my beliefs is this: you don't know who you're going to meet. So for me, my doors are always open, and I always open doors for others. So I'm welcome, all of you, for a conversation at any point in time.
Well, I've really enjoyed starting to get to meet you. We've got to meet up in London before you go to Spain. How long are you in the UK before you head out?
So I think we've got 2 weeks. 2 weeks, so everything's finalised, all the paperwork is done, and then we're shooting off.
And are you going to still come back to the UK, or is it sort of Spain for 6 months?
No, yes. We're going to live in Spain, but we're going to be traveling for work back and forth. So I've got some work in London. I'll support a couple of charities in Plymouth. So a couple of times a year, I'll come back to support them. And then I've got work in Europe, hopefully work in Dubai, signing some contracts soon. So traveling around the world, just experiencing the world. I think that's what I'm ready now for, to go and just see, go and experience and get out there.
Yeah, and keep paying it forward with the family. And this unity aspect is so vital. Like, I've really enjoyed having on the show today these reminders about having that hope, being solutions focused, and those 5 elements that you touched on so groundedly. Respect and unity standing out for me a lot. If you want to keep up with the show, go on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, give us 5 stars, and more importantly, comment what you can take action on from hearing from Toby today. Toby, I really appreciate how open you are, and I'm sure much more to get to know about you. And I think a Netflix documentary of your life is possibly in the future. You're an interesting character, especially with the languages and everything else you've got going on, right? Just the beginning. So thank you for being on the show today, and we'll see you next time for Pause, Stop, Reset.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you, people. Peace and love. Thank you.
Once again, I'm Simon Hedley. Thank you for listening to this episode of Pause, Stop, Reset, which is brought to you by the team at simonx.com and published by thesimpleidea.com. So you get maximum value, and to access all the bonuses and gifts, make sure to head to pause.reset.com, register and explore the portal. And if you're looking for great people, check out onesmartnetwork.com. If you've enjoyed the show, do give us a positive review, subscribe, and share this episode with friends. I can't wait to share our next episode with you. Till then, remember you can always choose to pause, stop, reset.